All right, welcome back, viewers. India has given it back to Canada, and how? Now, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs has read the riot act literally to Canada after top Canadian officials in the Trudeau administration resorted to planting fake stories against the Indian government in connection with the Hardeep Singh Nijjar case. Now, recently, top Canadian government official, that is Trudeau's national security advisor, had openly admitted that they had planted stories against India, openly admitted that they leaked sensitive information against the Indian government to the Washington Post, and that India now is in no mood to let go of this. The Indian government has warned that this type of irresponsible action will have serious consequence on bilateral ties. The MEA has also confirmed that a Canadian High Commission official has been summoned and handed over a diplomatic note for their latest act of propaganda.
We had summoned the representative of the Canadian High Commission yesterday. A diplomatic note was handed over in reference to the proceedings of the Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security in Ottawa on October 29th, 2024. It was conveyed in the note that the Government of India protests in the strongest terms to the absurd and baseless references made to the Union Home Minister of India before the committee by Deputy Minister David Morrison. In fact, the revelation that high Canadian officials deliberately leak unfounded insinuations to the international media as part of a conscious strategy to discredit India and influence other nations only confirms the view Government of India has long held about current Canadian government's political agenda and behavioral pattern. Such irresponsible actions will have serious consequences for bilateral ties.
In fact, while appearing before the Foreign Interference Commission, the top Canadian officials had admitted that they fed information against India in the Nijjar case to the US newspaper as a part of their communication strategy. Now, this was also, they also openly claimed and admitted that they leaked this information because they felt it was necessary. Listen in really to all these reactions to these candid admissions made by Canadian top officials.
Within our strategy, we were talking to different audiences. And so we deliberately chose, as Madame Drouin said in her introductory remarks, a credible, internationally read newspaper that would carry our side of the story. We chose a journalist who had a long record of background in this particular issue. He had written on it a number of times before.
The reason why we offered, as I said in my opening remarks, a background interview to the Washington Post was really to make sure that our side of the story will become clearly and be widely spread, especially at the international level. That was the strategy behind the background interview we gave.
In fact, India in the past had also shown the mirror to the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau after he admitted that his government had no hard evidence when it initially had accused India of being involved in the killing of Khalistani extremist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Justin Trudeau, who earlier was testifying before the Foreign Interference Inquiry, acknowledged that when his government implicated India in the Nijjar assassination case last year, they were acting on intelligence rather than any definitive evidence.
We chose to continue to work behind the scenes to try and get India to cooperate with us. Their asks of us was, well, how much do you know? Give us the evidence you have on this. And our response was, well, it's within your security agencies. You should be looking into how much they know. You should be engaging. It's, no, tell us what you know. Show us the evidence. And at that point, it was primarily intelligence, not hard evidentiary proof. So we said, well, let's work together and look into your security services, and maybe we can get that done.
All right, let's open this up for a discussion. I'm being joined by Ashok Sanjarhar former ambassador. Also joining us is Professor Madhav Nalapad, Vice Chair of the Manipal Advanced Research Group. I'll come to you first, Ashok Sarjanhar, sir. Would you say that Trudeau has single-handedly, literally ruined the India-Canadian ties? Now, look at the type of strong response which has come from the side of India. India has literally read the riot act to Canada. Canada has been told categorically and explicitly that such type of irresponsible and baseless insinuations will end up affecting bilateral ties.
Yeah, thank you very much, Meenakshi, for having me on the show. And you're very right. I think the bilateral ties have already been affected, in my view, to a situation beyond repair till at least, Justin Trudeau will be in power and will hold the seat of authority there. Because all the charges, all the allegations, all the claims that have been coming from Canada so far, whether it is on the last year on the 18th of September 2023, when he said that he had credible allegations, or even more recently, when the Royal Canadian Mounted Police came to the press and said that the Indian High Commission, particularly the Indian High Commissioner and his officers, that they were engaged in spying on the members of the South Asian community and carrying out repression against these people. There has been no evidence that has been proffered. After the RCMP press conference, Trudeau once again came out with a press conference. There was no need for that. Till date, there is not a shred of evidence that has been given. And now the recent case when the Canadian NSA and the Deputy Foreign Minister Morrison, they go to the Washington Post and try to plant a story, plant a fake news there, saying that, the Indian Home Minister is in some way associated with all this, that. Again, no evidence whatsoever. And obviously, the Canadian government feels that its own word is not strong enough, even as far as its own partners, that is in the United States, are concerned. It is not credible, it is not trustworthy, that they have to seek the support of, a well-read global newspaper, as they said, which will, they think, carry greater credibility and will have greater trust for it to be believed. What they are saying, no one is going to believe it. They were quite clear about that because they have had no evidence. They have not shared any evidence whatsoever.
Exactly, and that's the issue, sir. And I just want to take this forward to Professor Madhav Nalapad. Sir, not a single shred of evidence shared by Canada. They have been making bizarre insinuations, also, talking specifically about this leak in the Washington Post. There are open admissions by Canada that, yes, we leaked sensitive information, something which has been called out by India today. But what next do you see, sir? Ties obviously deteriorating further. What next do you think India should do, sir?
Well, it depends on what ridiculous charge Canada brings up against us. The fact is, it's impossible to believe that the Home Minister of India would participate in a conversation, which is what the Canadians are alleging, and thanks to data supplied by some other people as well. The fact is, it's impossible to believe that. First, you malign the High Commissioner, now you're maligning the Home Ministry, and this is absurd. The fact of the matter is, the Home Ministry would be involved. I'll tell you how. They will collect data on these terrorists operating freely on Canadian soil. They will prepare dossiers and hand the dossiers over to the Ministry of External Affairs to take up formally with the government of Canada. But that's the procedure. This kind of, so-called activity, it seems reminiscent, frankly, it seems like a very unbelievable plant using artificial intelligence. And a lot of artificial intelligence plants have been there and across Western media, basically demonizing India because the intention is to separate the West from India to the benefit of, the country. It's China, and they have very good proficiency in that kind of software. So, I simply want to say that it's an absurd allegation to make. Totally absurd.
Well,
and the so-called evidence is
Right.
Clearly manufactured evidence. And India has been compared by Canada officially
Yes.
to Russia, China, and Iran. That's where Trudeau wants to place us. That's the mission he has been given. By whom, by which authority, I cannot say. But he's a man with a mission. And
Right.
the mission put India in the same bracket as China, Iran, and unfortunately,
And absolutely,
Russia.
these absurd claims, reports, of course, are being rejected by all. And, you use the word absurd. Ashok Sajjanha, sir, if you could come in here. A very similar line, obviously, taken by the MEA also today. The language used, absurd, baseless and unfounded. Very strong words used by the MEA, isn't it? Something we don't see very often. So it's very obvious that India is also giving a strong response to Trudeau, a strong response to Canada, that these type of baseless insinuations will not be taken lying down.
Well, Meenakshi, I sincerely hope that the message gets to Canada because, we have been, in diplomatic protocol, we have been conveying these same messages, but obviously it has not gone to, it has not registered itself with Justin Trudeau particularly and his dispensation. I would not like to put all of Canada in this. I think basically it is, we have to see for what it is. It is the vote bank politics of Justin Trudeau. He knows that the Chinese are also helping him as far as his own election processes are concerned. They are the ones who are influencing the election processes there to help him. The ISI is doing all these supporting and funding the Khalistani separatists. So both of them are working together and they are meeting Justin Trudeau's end because he wants to curry favor with the Khalistani separatists. And that is why he's identified India as, as a country and as a people against whom he can push back so that he'll be able to get the support of this new Democratic Party.
Right, and I'm just going to take this forward, Professor Nalapad. What do you think is the end game? Just taking, Ashok Sajjanha's thought forward, he says the end game, he thinks, is domestic politics. Because even if that's the end game, it's hardly going to work. And end of the day, when you make these serious allegations, such insinuations, someday or the other, you'll have to back them with real proof, with hard, credible evidence.
Meenakshi, I'll point to the absurdity of this. We are talking about Iran. Iran has set up what it calls an axis of resistance, committed to the elimination of the state of Israel. Hamas, Hezbollah, section of the Houthis, people all over. They've set them up, they've helped them quite publicly. What the Indian diplomats are doing is basically check on terror networks, not set up terror networks. I mean, it is such a ridiculous charge that India is going the path of trying to create terror networks designed to bring down the lawful government of Canada.
Yeah.
That only the Canadian people are behind it. So this is becoming
absolutely charges almost laughable.
It's becoming a theater of the ridiculous.
Exactly.
And it's tragic. That,
And you're right, sir, and that was a thought which was echoed by the MEA also. A very strong response coming in from the side of the Indian government. India literally reading the Riot Act to Canada, telling Canada that such fake stories, these insinuations will not be taken lying down by the Indian government. Is it time for Trudeau to pay back? That's the open-ended question we end this with. Thank you both of you, sir, for joining us on this extremely interesting debate.